Welcome to Crossroads Callings. I am your host, Chimere Brown, and this is the podcast where we navigate life's pivots and discover a pathway to true purpose and calling. I am accompanied today by the mogul himself, the co-founder and CEO of Eventnoire. And if you do not know what Eventnoire is, you may have been living under a rock, but for those of you who do not know, it is a platform that serves as a bridge between culture and events. Jeff is a Chicago native and proud son of two immigrant parents. Today on this show, we will talk about how he started off as a chemistry major of all things, got to B school, and then now is operating as a full-time entrepreneur, even as most recently the entrepreneur of residence at 1871. We'll definitely talk about that later. But welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here, Chimere. What's going on?
Are you excited to be here?
I'm excited. It's good to see you in your element. You know?
Yeah, my element. Okay, well, I appreciate you accepting the invitation to come here.
I wouldn't be anywhere else. Appreciate you having me.
You have a really interesting story. Some of it I was privy to because I've known you for a while. Yeah. But Crossroads Callings is all about people sharing like their life journeys with the hopes that other people can learn from it. And you have been able to navigate from a corporate space into entrepreneurship, into fatherhood, which has been quite a journey. So it's different forms of you showing up differently in different spaces. And to be able to do that flawlessly, I think is something to be admired. And I think it's something that people can learn from.
Flawlessly is an overstatement. But, I appreciate you and I appreciate those sentiments, man. I think fatherhood is a lifelong journey, and it comes in different stages. And me, I'm just getting started and learning every single day.
Yeah, well, I hope you're ready to get started.
Let's do it.
And I hope you guys are too. Jeff has a motto that we'll get into, that to be great, one must stand with the people and not above them. Crossroads Callings, it starts now. So I was looking at your intro, your bio, and there were some things that stood out to me, and we have some similarities in the sense that you have immigrant parents, so do I, and you mentioned that you were known as a problem child, that you were later diagnosed with ADHD, and I don't know about your parents, but those are the type of things my mother would gracefully beat me through or pray me through. Yeah. So I wanted to know, like, who gave you those labels? Did your parents kind of cover you in grace? And then how did that cultivate the person you are today?
Well, I wasn't diagnosed to ADHD until I was an adult.
Okay.
So, they didn't know anything about that. And I'm realizing a lot of entrepreneurs and are have ADHD. And I'm, learning how to manage it every single day. But for me growing up, being called a problem child was really just a result of me being an outspoken young man. Okay. I consider myself pretty intelligent. My parents made sure I went to some like pretty good schools. And so I was oftentimes one of two black males there. And, what would happen is that we would bond, we build, but I was a class clown as well. So I would question the teacher. I would also was a leader in the class, so the kids would follow me. And so sometimes every now and then the kids would act up and it would seem like I'm the ringleader. And I was always making people laugh, always talking. And so it's funny, years later, I realized I got check marks and suspended for talking. And nowadays, I talk for a living. I build connections, working in sales, working in marketing, giving presentations. But I feel like they try to suppress that as a youth and tell kids, shut up, listen, don't say anything, sit there, do this, do that. But if you're somebody that's a thinker, right, you're not just following directions, you're going to ask questions. And I've always questioned everything around me, including authority.
Yeah. How did that go over with your parents, though?
Oh, yeah, lots of whoopings.
That's why you can't. You're making it pretty, but I know being a class clown and being misbehaving, especially with immigrant parents, it's all about you being a successful citizen.
Man, I remember my dad hit me on the way to church. I knew
Not
he was
on the way
gifted.
to the Jesus
On the
house.
way, you know, my dad was digging the church. He was drive, and somehow he'd be able to reach back at the same time. It hit me while driving, keeping his eyes on the road. But no, many a whooping from Cliff. And a lot of people talk about, what they call corporal punishment.
Yeah.
Talk about putting your hands on kids and like, it's not supposed to do it. It's so taboo. I need them. I deserved 90% of those whippings. And for me, it taught me discipline. It taught me structure. And it taught me that, hey, when you're in a certain position, no matter how you feel, you have to listen to authority.
Yeah.
Right. I have friends that are no longer here. I have friends that are in jail, who didn't have somebody at home that stayed on top of them. So it's funny, as an adult now, I tell my father thanks for the whippings, but as a kid, I couldn't stand them,
It's funny how you appreciate those moments because you seem your work ethic speaks to your discipline. Yeah. And I can only imagine that it started there, but I was just curious about like how your parents kind of cultivated that. And when did you kind of learn that was your superpower, being able to kind of show up, speak your mind? When did you learn that it was a superpower and not a flaw?
Well, number one, my parents started working at Burger King, McDonald's when they came here. My dad got his PhD, became a professor at Chicago State, and worked for the city. And my mom, still working to this day, just had a 70th birthday, still working as a nurse at Stroger Hospital. And so working hard was the only thing we knew. Being second, third best was something that wasn't never accepted. So when you see your parents working hard to get you what they need, whether it's the new Scottie Pippens or whether it's the new game from GameStop, I mean, my mother worked double, triple overtime. Yeah. And I've had to tell her to stop and slow down now because that's in her nature. So for me, working hard was the only option. My dad is the only person from his village that can read or write. He has 6 sisters, I believe, and he's the only person that made it outside of the U.S. outside, and he did it by studying and going through school and getting a scholarship here. So for me, if you're not working hard, what you doing, right? And
right.
Being a kid growing up in poverty at first, my parents luckily worked themselves up, picked themselves up from the bootstraps, and we got better moving on. But I used to have to shovel snow until you make money. I used to, sweep and work at all types of jobs from the age of 14. So.
They kept you grinding.
Man, you asked me another question. Oh, when I realized.
Yeah, that it was your superpower.
I realized I was leader around 5th grade when my teacher, Miss Grant, God bless her, from Bell School, sat me down, and my homegirl, Ashley Williams, who I went to high school with too, and she was like, look, the kids only listen to y'all. And everybody's misbehaving, and y'all got to get them together, okay? So I need y'all to talk to the kids, right? So it was getting so bad.
So she made it your responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah. She recognized my leadership, amongst my peers, and that's when I was like, oh man, I got some authority here, and there's something to be said in being vocal and being a leader. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, let's fast forward a little bit to your college days, because when did you learn that leadership will turn into entrepreneurship?
I went to college to get out of my parents' house. Right?
Okay.
Right?
That's honestly, that's why I went too.
Yeah.
Because it was strict in that house. I'm assuming your parents were strict, extremely religious as well.
Yep.
So college being the outlet. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I went to school at my parents' house. I needed that. I wanted to get out of the authority. But when I went down there, I realized all the international students were paying cash for college. And I'd see my Asian brothers and sisters from China that were pulling up in Benzes and Lexuses, and my friends from the suburbs whose parents dropped them off. I'm like, okay, they come from a different background. I'm seeing their dads. I'm like, what does your dad do? What does your dad do?
Yeah.
All right. A lot of the people that were doing really well or seemed to be where their parents were entrepreneurs. So from day one, I was thinking about what I could do, and I knew I was going to start my own business after college.
But then you ended up being a chemistry major?
Yeah. So, being an immigrant and coming from Nigeria, you got to be a doctor.
Or engineer.
Or a lawyer or something like that, or engineer, right? Both my brothers are engineers. I'm a failure. And so I was a chemistry pre-med major. But once I started hosting events in college, I realized that I really wanted to go into business. And so for me, it was just proving to myself that I could finish my chemistry degree. U of I is a top tier school for chemistry.
It is.
Program's amazing, and it kicked my butt. No, I can't cuss on here. It kicked my butt. And But it also taught me how to be super analytical. And I was biology at first, pre-med,
Mm-hmm.
but I liked numbers first. I was always good with numbers. So I decided to go with chemistry. And, to this day, those problem solving skills really helped me.
Let's talk about how you began in events, because the foundation in events eventually kind of led to Eventnoire.
Yep.
But what was the origin story behind you creating events and experiences, even beginning in college?
Well, I threw my first party when I was 14. It was a house party, and
Okay.
with some of my friends in our building. And man, we had a ball. It was a really great experience, just bringing people together. I was a freshman, I think. And then I threw another party when I was 18 for my birthday, and it got broken up by some random cats that was fighting. And I was like, man, for 2 hours there, I was on clouds.
You were right.
Bringing people together to have a good time was amazing. Then I had the privilege of having a party company passed down to me by my frat brother, Calvin King. He was an alpha, and I chose him as my pledge father. And so because of that, he felt good enough to hand me down this business he had just started called Pyramid. He was going to Atlanta to work for IBM, and he needed somebody to take it over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I passed that opportunity to pack out this club called The Canopy, 1,000 people down in Champaign. And we were making $1,000 doing events. And so I'm like, okay, I could quit my job at the cafeteria. I could work here and do parties. So one, I could throw parties,
Mm-hmm.
socialize, which is what I love to do. I loved handing out flyers, talking to people, having conversations, meeting new people, and just bring people out to have a good time. And when I saw how much money you can make doing it, I realized it was an opportunity. But also, people were not coming to the bars to play hip hop. The bar on campus had canceled their hip hop night because they were having altercations.
Right.
And so it was a lack of spaces for people of color to really connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to curate those spaces. I hosted Michael Jordan's son, Jeff. I hosted his 21st birthday party at Clark Bar.
Because he went to U of I.
Yeah, he went to U of I for a bit. And I was hosting these events, and it's like the networking from the football players to the frat to I knew everybody on campus at the WOW.
Yeah.
And I became known for the person that's hosting events. But again, with every flyer, I was building a connection. I never deleted a number. To this day, I have people's numbers from 20 years ago from when I was hosting events, and those all turned into relations over time.
So you were hosting events and majoring in chemistry at U of I at the same time?
I would be in the chemistry lab until midnight or 10 o'clock, and then I go set the party, and then at 2 a.m. I go back to the chemistry lab.
What was the initial dream? Like, what did you think you would be when you grew up? I know you mentioned you were pre-med initially, then you went into chemistry, but like, and you dabbled in entrepreneurship, but was that the dream that you had for yourself?
Well, I realized around junior, senior year that I wasn't going to enjoy medicine. My uncle was a physician.
Yeah.
And I actually shadowed another doctor, my frat brother, and I saw him remove a cyst, and I saw the blood. I was like, ugh, I almost earled. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, how am I gonna get through medical school if I can't even play with blood? And I became more disinterested in medicine, and I also heard from a lot of doctors, they're like, man, it's between malpractice insurance, between all the years of school, also between this and that, after taxes, you're not making as much as you would really like. And so for me, I'm like, okay, what am I really passionate about? I'm passionate about people.
Yeah.
And serving people. And, just being in the fraternity, being active on campus, I was serving the campus. And for me, I'm like, I got to run my own business. Like, I'm eventually going to have to. And so I decided to get an MBA instead of going to medical school. I went straight through.
Yeah.
The chemistry major was making $30,000 working in the lab. I was like, oh, no, I ain't going to go to school for 5 years for this. And it was, it was a crash. So
yes.
I decided to go straight to B school because I realized that the guys who had MBAs were getting paid more and were learning the art of business. So that's why I decided to go straight through.
So that was your foundation. So actually learning how to run a business besides what you've been doing grassroots.
100%.
I remember a time post graduate school, because we do our brunches, and you mentioned that you were working for Black doctors.
Yeah.
And you were grinding it out.
Yeah,
like you are the ultimate salesperson. And talk about relationships. You know how to pinpoint someone's challenge and just provide a solution to that. And anybody that can do that is really good at sales. But I remember you saying like you had made over $1 million in sales, and you realize that you were only getting a fraction of that, and he's like, I gotta do something different. Do you remember that time?
You putting all out there, girl. You
I'm
putting all
sorry.
out there, man.
I mean, because I remember that time.
That's the family foundation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the way sales works, right? You bring in money to a business and you get a paid percentage of that.
Yeah.
And so as a young, ambitious man, I realized, man, I'm responsible for a nice amount of the income coming in. And that was, just knowing your value, knowing your worth. And I give it so much credit to Reggie Ware, who I work for at Black Doctor. After the first year, I got a job actually at a medical device company. And they was going to pay me a lot of money. And, we actually negotiated. He offered me, saying the opportunity to kind of like negotiate and offer me more money to stay because one, I had got an offer, but he saw my value, and so when that one day I got a big raise and I decided to stay as opposed to moving to Kalamazoo, Michigan to work in medical devices. And if I didn't do that, who would have known? I might not have met my wife. I might not have met, a lot of great people I met by staying in the city.
Yeah.
But yeah, after a while, if you're doing sales, it's the hardest thing to learn, and every CEO has to sell. Mm-hmm. I had the pleasure of working for a CEO for 8 years who was a millionaire, who started a $1 million company, who all he knew was entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So I got a chance to learn a lot from him. And so naturally, after a while, it just made sense to start my own business. But yeah.
Was that the turning point? Like working under, we can call him your mentor for that 8 years that you said, I'm going to start my own business. Was that the birth of Eventnoire then? Yeah,
actually, what's funny enough is I always ran my event business while I was there, right? It actually helped me. Yeah, so I ran Pyramid, which is my event business, where I hosted events for years in the city of Chicago. What I was doing in college, I did at U of I. I did it in Chicago, excuse me. So the same way I was serving the campus, I would serve Black professionals, and I was growing my event business over the years because I was learning more about marketing. At the MBA, I was learning more about marketing. I was learning how to scale businesses, and I was applying all those to my party business.
Right.
Eventually, I was doing things for All-Star Weekend out of town in New York. And I realized that there was a greater need. I said, look, I can't scale parties as big as I would like to without having to actually be there most of the time, right? Mm. But I also realized that there was a need for what I was building. And so I thought to myself, how can I build a network, a system, a platform that connected people to dope events and experiences where they can be themselves? Because I really enjoyed the feeling and the dopamine that I was seeing by seeing other people have an amazing time. For me, I don't like partying as much. I do a little bit, not as much as I enjoy seeing people party and seeing people enjoy themselves. People are getting married, people are meeting their next boss, next colleague. And for me, I like to just sit back and watch people have a good time.
Right.
And so by building Eventnoire, it was an ecosystem where we can do this globally. And so by supporting the people like myself who were struggling to scale their event business, I learned so much about marketing events, but also dealt with a lot of challenges from being a Black event producer that wanted to get into those nice establishments downtown.
But yeah, let's talk about some of those challenges, because I think we're going through the story as if you didn't have any hiccups, which is just not true. That's not how life works. Well, what were some of the initial challenges, especially as a Black man in corporate, and then now a Black man in entrepreneurship trying to create access? Because that's what event promoters do. You create access to space to create experiences that are fun and fulfilling and impactful, right? But as you don't have the textbook look. You got a kind of hip hop flair sometimes. So what were some of the challenges that you encountered like starting out? Yeah. And then what are you still navigating as you're trying to scale?
Yeah. First of all, I know how to put it on, by the way.
You do know how to put it. You know what?
Yeah, luckily I can dress and wear what I want. But I was in a suit, for 8 years to major meetings and events. But when I went out to conferences and things like that. And so, but for me, I've always been able to, and that's part of the reason I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I know I need to be myself in whatever element I'm in whatever situation I'm in. And I realized that working, straight up corporate, probably, I had an internship. That's what happened. I had an internship in the summer. I was doing chemistry. It was a chemical engineering internship though. Mm-hmm. And my mentor got it for me. And he hit me up in the middle of the summer like, hey, what's going on? My colleagues are saying you're brushing your hair during work.
You're brushing your hair.
You're brushing your beard. They say that you're talking all about entrepreneurship and how you want to own real estate instead of talking about how you want to be a chemist or a chemical engineer. Like it's saying that you're not focused, that blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Dad, I just went out to lunch with them once, and they got all this. They analyzing me all summer. They in front of my face, smiling, but and behind my back being fake and like talking bad about me. And I'm a 19, 20-year-old kid in my first time in a corporate experience. Anyways, you like turn around. I mean, I did my work, make sure I hustled and did a great presentation at the end. But it realized to me that, oh man, in corporate America, they will be fake in your face. They'll talk about you, and you really have to carry yourself in a way, just and be on your P's and Q's. I'm like, I don't have time for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm interested in how you're leveraging your corporate money to get real estate, like you said your brother's doing.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in not being able to be my authentic self. And that's what Eventnoire is about, being able to show up as your authentic self in spaces where you're celebrated, right?
Yeah. So what are you navigating now? Because I feel like that's a lesson that many of us had to learn, is the corporate America game, especially when you're young and unpolished. You would have never learned that had you not experienced it. But now you're trying to scale. What are some of the things that you're navigating now in your new space? Because you own this space now. You can create the culture, but there are these things that still happen.
Yeah, I mean, every day as an entrepreneur is a challenge.
Yeah.
It's one thing after the other. So, I mean, there's a couple of things, right? The reason most businesses fail is from lack of access to capital. Mm-hmm. So it's been a struggle for me raising capital, getting business loans. I've gotten turned down for business loans. I always get the high interest stuff, though. It's always available and ready. But being able to, get a good capital stack has always been an issue for entrepreneurs of color. And it's something that's no different from me. And so it's always a challenge. Okay, do I try to scale as big as possible? Mm-hmm. Or do I try to be as cautious as possible to make sure that you survive and grow and scale your business slowly?
Yeah.
Right. And so there's no limit to how big you can scale if you have the capital. For me, I've always had to scale in a smart and strategic way. Which means sometimes building slower, right? Which is when you have larger companies like Eventbrite that just got sold, right? They raised $500 million, right? And so they were able to scale much faster than I was, and actually build product faster and iterate. So for me, there's capital. There's dealing with a specific type of customer set, right? That may have unique needs. So when you're serving each audience, you have to understand your customer, and also make sure that you're super serving them, because word spreads fast if you underdeliver. So there's also just like managing the fact that there was much, much more support for Black businesses and entrepreneurs post George Floyd, and we're in a different climate right now.
Yes, right? We are.
And so you can't rely on that. Even if you are super serving that audience, you need to be able to make sure you're adding business value. And so that's one thing we're consistently focusing on, is how can we continue to add value to the folks in our ecosystem.
How did your business change from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic?
A couple ways, I would say. Number one, we were the beneficiary of a grant from Pepsi. Shout out to them. At a point where we were going to have to shut down because there were no events, right? Mm-hmm. And if we were able to get a lot of PR around that, and so there's a lot of surge, a lot of support. And I think since then, we've continued to grow, but it's been a tougher sale for folks who don't necessarily, one, look like us, but then even two, for our own folks. I think the desire to intentionally support Black-owned businesses has also decreased a bit from our own community, right?
Talk about that, because I didn't see a decrease from us. I can see there has been a decrease in support of people of color in general since the new administration, which is just true. Yeah. But we're going to title this segment right here, "It Be Your Own People." But talk about that, because I'm actually surprised that you don't see a lot of support from people that look like you, and that's part of the community. Let me take a step back.
We get a lot of support from people who from our community. We wouldn't be without it. But it's definitely a tougher sale now than it was when we first started. It's definitely longer conversations. It's definitely, I think, just an overall mindset that folks had to kind of look out for themselves during these times. Whereas I think there was a lot more solidarity, a lot more intent around, we were being very intentional with our dollars.
Yes.
Right? I think that people are getting distracted from a lot of things going on in the world, right? Whether it's whether it's political, whether it's financial. Mm-hmm. But I just can feel that there was a lot of strong energy about intentionally supporting small businesses and Black-owned businesses. Yeah. But that's not. It taught me that that's not a good enough business model, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to make sure that you're adding value. That's why we're continuously iterating and making sure that we're evolving and adding value beyond ticketing.
When you think of your life to this point, between like when you had your first party up until now, what was kind of the biggest crossroad that you had to navigate?
For me, building a business during the pandemic was tough.
Okay.
Not being able to engage directly with your customers, but also there not being events, and you're trying to raise capital from folks during the pandemic when there's no events, and so for me, I got over 200 no's when I was pitching. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think fundraising is tough. It's actually easier to get customers than it is to fundraise and raise capital, but it's a necessary part of being an entrepreneur.
What sustained you?
My belief in myself, God, of course, my belief in what I'm building,
Mm-hmm.
right? For me, when I talk to my customers, that's when I'm able to just get that fresh energy. Like, man, I was on your site, man. I found this dope event, met this beautiful young lady there, met my new best friend.
Yeah.
I'm hearing these stories in places from Denver to Nebraska even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Folks whose lives are changing because of the platform we built.
Yeah.
And that just shows me, okay, we're here for a reason. Because if you talk to other people and investors about your dream and what you're building, it's enough people to tell you that what you're building is not worth building. So for me, it's that reinforcement that you're walking in your purpose.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because my next question, I was going to ask you, did you have any regrets? Do you think you left corporate too soon to go into entrepreneurship, or do you feel like you're currently operating in your purpose and your calling?
No, I believe in God's timing.
Yeah.
I think everything is on time. For me, do I wish I started out full-time entrepreneurship longer? Yes, only because I didn't start until after I got married. And women don't play when it's time to settle down and you decide you want to quit your job.
How did that conversation go over?
It was a conversation, but luckily, my wife's amazing. But luckily, she was supportive. But you had some real conversations. You got to make a deal when you got a partner, and you're doing well, and you decide, hey, I'm going to just throw this job away.
Because not only are you an entrepreneur, but she has her own practice as well. So it's two entrepreneurs in the house.
Yeah, now it's two entrepreneurs. At the time she was in dental school, and now my wife is also has her own dental practice that she runs. So.
Yeah. What is that dynamic?
Figuring out how you can both come home and make sure that you recognize that nobody's the boss. We're partners, right? Because we're both used to having our own staff and things of that nature. But it's good. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think that we're both building, and when you're on the team, you learn from entrepreneurship. You learn about teamwork, and you learn about building something for the greater good and delayed gratification.
How has fatherhood and being a husband changed you as a business owner, if at all?
Yeah, definitely. It makes you more cognizant about your time. All right. Efficient businesses really make sure that you put the most in based upon the time that you have. And I simply have less time. I can't do 80-hour weeks the way I used to. Right. I still put in extra work, but I got to cut it off at a certain time. Mm-hmm. But it makes the work I'm doing more purposeful for me. And so it makes me decide what's for me, what's not. I say no to a lot more things now because I'd rather spend time with my son than go do something that's not going to give me that return on investment.
Yeah. What are you saying no to? Because I feel like you are the busiest person that I know. It seems like you definitely are in the mix. So what are the no's?
I'm actually thinking about selling one of my businesses, right?
Really?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about selling my businesses right now because, the businesses that I have that are giving me the most gratification mm-hmm. and return on investment require more for me. All right, so I do real estate as well. I have a digital health business with my brother that he runs,
mm-hmm.
And so for me, I also own a nightclub, right, or a lounge, right, and so it's Eventnoire's first.
Let's just pause. Let's run down the list of businesses because I feel like we just sliding past that because it's definitely more to Jeff than just Eventnoire. So you said you're a co-founder?
I'll do a couple things, but what I will disclose.
What would you disclose? Yes.
No, but for me, it's always important for me to be multi-faceted. And initially, I was of that mindset that, you would have 7 streams of income. I don't think you should have 7 streams of income anymore. I think you should have one main stream of income that you focus on and then invest that. So,
Yeah.
but I on top of Eventnoire, I own some real estate and invest in real estate passively. Mm-hmm. My partner runs our flips, part of Femi. In addition to that, I own a lounge with my best friends that I grew up with, Hugh Chicago. We essentially, it's Eventnoire's first ticketed venue. All right, we have some venue partnerships, our first venue partnership, but that's in the South Loop in Chicago as well. And, real estate agent, I've helped over 60 families get their first home, right? That's more so passive now. I more so use my license to acquire real estate now. Mm-hmm. But that was a big part of what I was doing. In addition to that, I work at 1871 as an entrepreneur in residence.
What is that?
1871 is an incubator in Chicago, amazing incubator, has a lot of programs. Shout out to Betsy Ziegler. She's their amazing leader and a great friend and just an amazing person. But I work with them with their Black Tech cohort where they actually have entrepreneurs learn about entrepreneurship. And so that's something I've done for about 3 years now, leading workshops, leading webinars with experts we pull in to help them learn more about entrepreneurship, how to scale their business.
That's amazing. What do your parents think about you now? Because you mentioned earlier that you're not doctor, lawyer, engineer, Nigerian parents, you're seen as a failure, but you've been able to diversify your financial portfolio and grow several successful businesses. Do they see you differently now?
I'm also an angel investor. I've invested in a couple of startups as well. But so definitely my parents, I'm probably surprised at how I turned out. But I think they always knew I was intelligent.
Yeah.
But no, they're super proud. I think they're super proud of me. I think they're, anytime I make the news or I'm on TV or it's like, saying similar change, it's they're pretty happy, I think, with how it turned out. They know I'm crazy, but they know that I'm also big on family loyalty, and also, I turned out okay.
Yeah. So overall, pretty proud.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's talk about how you were diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. I feel like a lot of us now, just due to access to just medical and just understanding about mental health, are having late diagnosis. I know a couple people that have just been diagnosed with autism later in life. You mentioned that you were diagnosed as an adult. What happened that made you even get that looked into?
Well, I kind of already knew that I was somebody that couldn't keep still, right, in class.
Okay.
I switch thoughts and like direction mentally a lot, and for me, it's always been a superpower.
Yeah.
But I also can see how it held me back in certain things, in certain situations. I think from a social perspective, it's always been good for me, and I can manage relationships, manage multiple conversations, etc. But I realized when I was really focusing on doing the work of building a business that I had a hard time focusing at times. And I would always sometimes start projects without finishing them and then get back to them. But I always felt like I needed to have multiple things going on. Right? I was president of fraternity. I was a chemistry major. So I always knew I probably had ADHD, right? It wasn't until I was looking to, in the business and building the business, working on business plans. It's like, why is it so hard for me to concentrate?
Got it.
It would almost like hurt for me to stay in one place and just focus on what this like. Yeah, why is it taking so long for me to do this one task? If I don't like the task, and it's certain things like working with spreadsheets, putting together reports, it's certain things that I would do that I just couldn't focus on, and I'd like intentionally delay. And as I started looking at social media and looking at, it was some page called the ADHD Entrepreneur. I realized, man, they talking to me. Like, this is exactly.
It spoke to you, huh?
Yeah.
What were some of the things that stood out?
Things like you'll have a project that you need to do. And it's due for like a month, all right? But no matter what, you'll wait till the day before to start it, all right? And it doesn't stress you out, but it's like you keep putting it off. And you almost prefer to work like that, right? And in a sense of you like that pressure because you show up.
Yeah.
And so I realized that sometimes I put myself in situations where I'd have to like go harder all of a sudden, where if I would have planned accordingly, I wouldn't have had to. And I'm like, and I'm almost get a dopamine. Oh yeah, I proved to myself I got that done.
So you kind of need that. It's like an internal alarm. Like, oh my gosh, this is almost due, and I need that adrenaline. It's adrenaline.
Yeah, because we thrive under conflict, under pressure.
Yeah.
And I realized that I would do that and unintentionally, but it was something that was regular, right? Like, it's certain things, like, okay, you're a little bit messy, like it's certain things that I just knew. I always will put a lot of things on my plate, and I could manage 3-4 things at a time. And it also gave me more bandwidth than most people. But I just realized that, look, you have a hard time focusing on one thing, and you need to focus on one thing right now as you build a business.
Yeah.
And so I need help navigating this and figuring out. And that's when I started looking out and seeking out, things that can help me do that, right? Whether it's information, whether it's finally going ahead and talking to a psychiatrist and seeing, what it's all about.
Now that you're aware of it, how are you showing up differently?
For me, knowledge is power. When you know your strengths, your weaknesses, and how this, it impacts you. For me, it just, I show up intentionally. I understand that I got to take breaks sometimes when I work on things.
Yeah.
I understand how my mind works. That okay. One thing I talk to people about, I actually listen more to you when I'm not looking at you in your eyes.
Really?
And I read about that. Like I'm a type of person that, in order for me to focus on something, I might have to be like doing something. Like I might have to have my phone in my hand while I'm hearing you, because I'm really focusing on what you're doing. But keeping my hands busy, while you're talking, actually allows me to like focus. It's a little weird. There's certain things I've read up on this, like, oh man, that's me. Oh man, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Our brains are just wired a little bit differently. But with that being said, I can manage more things than most people can, because I can switch it. I'm saying
you think it made you a better professional then?
100%. It's made me a better entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah.
And a harder worker, because I'm not scared to have a lot of things on my plate. I'm not scared to put in the long hours. I just might have to switch up what I'm working on. And that allows me to, I think Virgil said, you should work on as many projects as possible as you can. I don't believe that still. There's a big advantage to focusing, right?
Right.
But if you can hyper focus, like I know that when I'm locked in, I'm locked in. Even if it's for an hour, I can get things done in an hour or two that probably will take somebody much longer.
Yeah. I always like my audience to leave with some like takeaways. And I was trying to figure out a best way to kind of get you to give them some entrepreneurial how-tos. And the song that came to mind was that Biggie song when he gave them like the 10 commandments of the game. And
the 10 commandments, man.
I'm just saying. And that I can hear the song in my head, but maybe some top 5 entrepreneurial commandments, people that want to get into entrepreneurship that are afraid to make the switch, some things they should do to set up and some things they need to be mindful of.
Yeah, a couple of things. Start a business where you have an unfair competitive advantage. Don't seek to compete, seek to win, right? Is there a place or superpower you have that you're better than most people at, right? Don't be a lawyer and you all of a sudden you want to be a rapper or you want to be an artist unless you've honed that skill, right? Because if you're starting a business, unless you're looking to really struggle and as Elon Musk says, eat glass every day, I think somebody said that, right? You want to be able to win, right? It's the game, you want to win. So number one, go into a business area where you have an advantage, whether that's product distribution or knowledge, right? Number two, build a strong team. At the end of the day, a lot of solopreneurs, most entrepreneurs are solopreneurs. You get further with people. You get further with partnerships. You get further by having a diverse set of folks that you can lean on that have different skills than you. Those businesses go further. Anybody investing in a seed stage business is investing only in a team because you have limited traction. Number three, know your numbers. All right, know your lifetime value of your customer, know your customer acquisition costs, and learn your profit margins, right? You might be going into a business that has small margins, right? If you're in hospitality and you open up a restaurant, you're dealing with 10% margins at best a lot of times. So you can get higher, right? But most businesses are dealing with small margins, right? If you're dealing with software, you might have a 90% margin. You're dealing with healthcare, so understand the margin of the business that you have, because you're going to wonder why things ain't working while you're working hard at making customers and making money, but you might be losing money while you're making money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that. What else would I would say? Stop hiring your friends.
Talk about that, because
Stop hiring your
but your
friends.
business partner is your friend.
I hire my friends, okay?
Give
I've
us
hired my
the horror
friends.
story
But stop
then.
hiring your friends. So for me, luckily, I've been blessed to have friends that I grew up with a long time, have a lot of respect for, and a lot of trust for. But that is not the common thing that you see in business. And there's still things when you work with your friends that you have to be cognizant about.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you're respectful. You speak to them a certain way to make sure that your personal relationship does not get impacted. There are certain things you would say to somebody who wasn't your friend that you won't say to your homie, right? So I would say that if you're starting a business, unless you would work with your friends in that business, which I have, don't work with your friends, because it's important that you give honest feedback. It's important that you hire slow and fire fast, and you're not going to be able to do that with your friends and family. And number 3, it's just important that there's no conflict of interest and or just like sensitivity to the real facts of business, because business is about numbers, business is about productivity, and business is about results, all right? And you're not going to be as hard-nosed with your homie.
Have you lost friends in business?
Have I lost friends in business? I think I've only lost associates in business, thankfully.
Okay.
For me, if we fall out over money, we were never really friends. A lot of my friends have integrity. I'm really appreciative of the fact that a lot of people I work with have really strong integrity. So we might have a disagreement, but we're not going to fall out over something, because we're always going to communicate.
Yeah.
So I never lost a friend in business over money. I've lost associates.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, because I think smart people understand that you're never right, and there's always some common ground, and usually there's your perspective is wrong, their perspective is wrong, and the real perspective is somewhere in the middle.
Got it.
So I tend to try to work with people who have that way of thinking. It's just easier.
Let's talk about your motto as you're talking about people, because you said to be great, one must stand with the people and not above them. What does that mean to you, and how does that show up in how you work as a business owner and a professional?
For me, at the end of the day, the most important thing is to have the common touch and be able to connect with people, right? That's what sales is about. That's what marketing is about. Everybody's looking to connect with people.
Yeah.
So if you're in a place where you're secluded from folks, you think you're better than folks, you're not going to be able to be in tune with folks. One, you're not going to be able to have a marketing or a sales message that's going to resonate. But number 2, people do business with people they like, right? And so for me, humility is super important. I am a very confident person, right? But I also know I'm better than nobody. And I think that's important. And so you'll see a lot of people that get a little bit of success and start to like really remove themselves from other folks, and or just, once they think too highly of themselves, they become disconnected.
Right.
And so for me, it's a constant reminder that you're here, the people are everything. Most businesses now, especially in the creator economy, they're going direct to consumer. Listen to what your customers are saying, and be a grounded person. Humility has won me way more friends, relationships, and business than having an ego has. Actually, having a high ego is I've never seen it help anybody in business, right?
Yeah.
It's good for fuel to go hard. But if you're looking at building relationships and building long-lasting relationships, whether it's friendships or customers, humility is always won. So,
speaking of building relationships, what is next for you, for Eventnoire, for your businesses?
Great question, man. Great question. We're really excited to be pouring more into our community. We're doing a few things, right? Really focusing on embracing and building our product. We're launching the in-crowd, which is our community globally, right? For folks who have been tapped into Eventnoire for years, over 600,000 folks on our newsletter list. And we want to bring those folks together more for experiences, but also for learning, right? So we're launching Eventnoire Academy. So for those creators and event curators that want to scale, and we're actually hosting our annual Curator Summit in Atlanta, February 28th. We had to postpone it because of the snow this past weekend, but it's going to be a lot of brands, influencers, event organizers, and a lot of our customers coming together to just network, collaborate, learn how to win together.
And then Art of the Party. Yeah. What's up with that?
It's my podcast. Y'all check it out wherever podcasts are. So it's our podcast with Eventnoire, where we bring together what we call adventurepreneurs. I'm a strong believer that if you can host events, you're learning marketing, and every brand actually needs to host events to be able to build a stronger consumer a database, and database as well as just relationship, right? If you have a brand and you want people to experience it, what better way than it is to host an event?
Yeah.
So we're talking to people like my boy Marco Barclay from Essence, my boy Sid, who has a clothing brand and a growing party brand. We've had a lot of great folks, Jay Ivy, Grammy Award winning spoken word artist, about how events just play a role in experiential marketing, how events play a role in great brand marketing, and how it helps people and how people leverage it to grow these amazing global brands. And so that's what the Art of the Party is all about. And check us out wherever podcasts are.
What are your social media handles and how do people connect with you?
Yeah, Jeff Osuji on Instagram with Rosuji. Eventnoire is Eventnoire HQ. And you can always hit me up on those handles. And I'm all about the connecting with my folks and see how we can collaborate.
Thank you so much for joining us on Crossroads and Callings. I think we had a great conversation. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you want to say? Any last tidbits you want to leave behind?
I just want to say that if you're building something, and you're believing it, you're going to be successful as long as you don't quit and keep going. You can't lose, right? You lose when you quit. So whatever you're looking to manifest, plan it out, try to be as strategic as possible. Most importantly, just keep going. At the end of the day, you're going to build something that's purposeful if you're pouring yourself all into it. So, I
love that. Thanks again for coming to Crossroads and Callings. Crossroads and Callings is streaming.
Yeah, and host your next event on Eventnoire.com.
Right? You know what?
Go download the app as well.
When we celebrate 1 year of Crossroads and Callings, we will host our event on Eventnoire. That's where it'll be posted. But Crossroads and Callings is posted on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Please like and subscribe. I also want to thank the National Public Housing Museum for being an amazing partner. If you happen to be in the Chicagoland area, feel free to give them a visit. They would love to host you. And until next time, please use your crossroads to lead you to your purpose and your calling.